computer doing it. Okay, brilliant. So we've talked about the punctuation.
Oh, yeah, I can see it says record.
Yeah. So we've talked about punctuation, and I will share. I found a video today of an interview that the author did with Waterstones. So I'll share that afterwards in the group so you can listen to her. She talks there about her thought processes and how all the characters came together, and it's quite interesting to listen to. I will share that. You might enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
So, sorry, has anybody read any of her other books? Does she write like that all the time?
No, she's a poet, isn't she?
Is she a poet? That makes
Yes.
sense. Because I said it's like a big ballad poetry thing.
Yeah.
That makes sense, totally. Yeah.
She started life as an actress.
Did she?
Yeah, and she was quite a good actress, actually. I've seen her in some dramas. And on Hey Player, she has an interview with Abu Dhabi. It's Hey in Abu Dhabi. And she explains, because she's been in the sort of the entertainment business all her life, basically. And she started as an actress. And she's only recently gone into writing this sort of novel. But she's written poems and stuff and script writing, I think. She's done lots and lots of things.
That makes sense. That makes total sense, because it's, get into it, it's like a spoken word, a poem, a ballad. Yeah, that makes. I didn't read any of the stuff that you said. I just read the book and took it on face value. But yeah, it's just, that makes total sense. But that's amazing that you can transition from being an actress to being an author, because the language is absolutely, the language is phenomenal. I'm going to have to go back and pick out the bits of the little nuggets of, wow. Honestly,
Because
I love language, and it's just, wow, yeah.
Because I read the first 2 chapters, and then I put it down and went and read something light-hearted.
I did exactly the same thing. I read the first 2 chapters and then had to leave it for a little while and come back to it. I found it quite slow going at the start.
Yeah.
Am I the only person that didn't really like it?
Oh,
It wouldn't be
controversial.
my choice. I mean, I read it and I quite enjoyed it, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, there you go.
I wouldn't have.
I can tell you why, if you like.
Yeah, go on.
Probably put it down and gone back to it maybe later. But, yeah.
I think I found it, first of all, there was the punctuation, but it wasn't because it was punctuation. I needed to know why she was doing it, and I didn't know why, so that was distracting me.
Yeah.
Then I kind of felt, I went through a phase of reading a lot of teen fiction because I wanted to escape from the world for a while, and I thought they'd all be happy endings and that sort of thing. I didn't realise quite how angsty they were. But one of the things that they often do is they who's gay, somebody who started out as a man became a woman, somebody, and it kind of, they have to have somebody with each different property, and I felt that she was doing that a bit. And although she was trying to show huge diversity of race and sexuality and all sorts of different things, actually she was almost kind of coming up with different rather extreme stereotypes, is what I felt.
Ticking boxes.
I also felt that that each of the stories, you kind of started to get a bit absorbed, but then they ended.
Yes.
I didn't feel they were particularly deep. I missed the plot. I basically missed the plot, and it may be just that I've been reading a lot of stories lately, and I'm not used to this kind of book. I didn't feel there were many characters I could identify with as a woman. There were bits in it that were just slightly ludicrous, like the 2 women that snorted 2 lines of coke and had 2 bottles of wine, but still had the most intense conversation. That was actually, if you read it, could be an academic paper on feminism that you would not be speaking like if you just had 2 lines of coke.
Well, we might have to bounce your knowledge there.
I've no idea.
I mean,
Yeah.
unbelievable.
No, me neither.
And then the sort of gender politics, it sounded every now and again, it was like she was, instead of them discovering the gender politics, they were kind of preaching at each other. And kind of like she was trying to demonstrate she understood gender politics. And I think perhaps if you do understand gender politics, and you have read a bit about, different, about racism and different race groups, that actually it came across as a bit kind of preachy in places. And that sort of great, make the characters speak as characters. And occasionally when it did go into plot, you began to get drawn in, and then the character would end. And the other thing that I found difficult, and this is probably just me as somebody who's a bit of a control freak, I suppose, I was finding it quite hard in my mind because you were shifting from one character to the next, and it did take me the whole month to read. I had to space it out between work and things. So try and remember the connection between people, and it was driving me mad not having. I really wanted a diagram. There were some really good bits in it. I didn't find I laughed that much. I don't know if people did.
No, nothing to laugh about.
But that was.
I've heard that there was humour in it. I haven't found the humour.
There's no humour. It's dark.
Well, there were things like the yes no sandwich. That was quite funny.
Okay, but it's not a novel. It's a
snapshot.
Me, it was a narrative. It was just a narrative. Yeah, it had people, and there was a story, and there was a rushed end again. I would get really effed off at the rushed end, and I'm really, really annoyed about that. But anyway, they weren't really meant to fit together. It's like a poem, a narrative, or just this is what's like a mural, and this is what happened here, this is what happened there, and I don't think she was trying to make a point. I think she was just skipping between, trans and binary, non-binary, and lesbian, and the black issues, and the rest of it. As like a mural, just like a narrative. It's not a novel. I didn't see it as a novel at all. There wasn't a story.
It was because I tried to watch one of the interviews with her, and I had a look at a couple of the reviews, and she spoke, and it's in a couple of the reviews about her humour coming through, and just completely passed me by. Maybe it's in good humour rather than, chortling laughter. But humour was because I've read a few of the things around the book, and it does mention her humour writing, and a bit, and I just haven't.
I've read nothing around the book. I just went with the book and got really pissed off at the beginning with the layout, and it really hurt my eyes, and then I just got into it, and it was just like riding the wave of a poem. It wasn't a novel. It wasn't a novel you could get into and go, oh god, there's a story. And I was really pissed off at the end, because the end was like a novel with a happy ending, and that really pisses me off when people do that. You don't need to do that.
Do you think it was the happy ending, or because?
Yeah, but it was, wasn't it? It was just like, oh yeah, let's have a happy ending, Well, Penelope finds her mum, so yeah.
I think it was supposed to be a twist, but it wasn't much of one.
Yeah, when she did that interview in Abu Dhabi, somebody asked her a question, and she couldn't answer it because some people hadn't read it. But it was like Penelope, that sort of character. It was like, because she was sort of almost prejudiced, if you like, and it was like a revenge thing, where she, because the book, I think, is almost like a rhetoric about because everybody's, there's woman, there's black, there's gay, there's binary, non-binary, or whatever. And all these characters are other. And that's what she said she was trying to get over, really. But there was, I think that ending was a bit of sweet revenge against somebody who spent their life being prejudiced against coloured people, and she found out that she had that background herself.
Sweet. It was sweet and it was wonderful and it was like a happy ending, which felt wrong because it was like all these. We had all these things that happened and things that weren't right and things that were a bit weird, like Winsome, having it off with Shirley's husband and all the rest of it. And it was all little vignettes and beautiful. And then there was like a plot and an ending. And I thought, no, there can't be a plot and an ending to a book like this. Like, do that. And then they go, all right, we've got to have an ending. We've got to finish off. No, you don't. It's all right not to have an ending. So,
Yeah.
Well, as soon as they had the bit in the plot where at 14 her child was taken away, I was thinking, oh, that's going to end up being one of the other characters. And all the way through I was thinking, well, who's it going to be? It's it felt a bit obvious that it ended up being her to me, but I probably read too many mystery books.
It was almost as if it was just a case of needed to tidy up the ends, wasn't it?
yes, and that's wrong. You don't need to tidy up the ends. So
If she was going to do that, I wanted a bit more conversation, and it would have been interesting
just like,
to see
let's do an end. And lots of books are like that nowadays. It just pees me off because it's like, you got this big and intrigue. Happy ending. No, sorry, life's not like that. So
I did
Sorry,
enjoy
what did
going
you say,
through it.
Sarah? I didn't hear you. Sorry, or somebody said something there. Was it Sarah? Did you say something?
Oh, no, I was just saying. Yeah, I was going to say, if you're going to tidy up ends, you have to tidy up ends, and it didn't. It just tidied up a couple of ends, and then left the rest hanging. Yeah. And I'd rather it had all been left undone, really, or all tidied up. But I felt quite unsatisfied at the end.
Well, did you think she would probably leave her farm to her now instead of to Megan Morgan? Because she was going to leave it to Morgan.
He's 80, for God's sake, no.
You would hope not. But...
Not.
And she wouldn't do farming, would she? I mean, come on.
But it could go back to a racist again, couldn't it? Controversial.
Hattie's the best book, isn't it? And Bummy's really pretty good too, or however you pronounce it. But yeah.
Yeah.
And Winsome, I did like Winsome a lot.
I like the two sides of the teachers, actually the three sides. So the older teacher, the younger teacher, Shirley, was it?
Shirley, Penelope.
And Carol, who was the student. I liked being able to see that little triangle of people and how they experience the same things differently. That I found was really interesting. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that is actually. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That was a good reflection of teaching, actually.
Yes, it is.
Who's this young whippersnapper come to tell me how to do my job? Why are they going to listen to her?
I mean,
I'd have been interested to see a little bit more about how they bonded. I felt that again was almost glossed over. It's like they were sort of staff room enemies, and then suddenly they weren't. And I thought that there was a lot more that could have been explored there.
Yeah, it does make me wonder whether there is more backstory, because everybody's got a little story, and I've actually enjoyed going through the book with each new person, starting afresh and thinking, how is this person going to fit in? Who are they going to know? What era are we in? Because it covered quite a long time spectrum as well, didn't it?
There's a whole century. Yeah.
Was it a story though? I mean, I don't know the point of it, because they're all very engaging, all the little vignettes, but the men were not visible in it very much.
Maybe the man or the other.
Maybe that was the point. It was
always.
But the men were really, really quite invisible. Maybe that's the point. I don't know, but it's interesting that she's come from an acting background and poetry background, and maybe the way we perceive novels, beginning, middle, end, story, plots, twists. She's not writing from that perspective. I've not read any of her other books, and maybe I should to see if she might. Yeah.
sorry, did you find it odd that sort of right at the end, it's all about women, girls. It does have other, but Gerald suddenly has a bit of time, you know, in the novel, and it was the only suddenly, and
It's
you know,
perfect.
Slim didn't get to speak, but Gerald suddenly did, and I was thinking, I wonder why she did that, because she suddenly had a part to fill in the plot.
Oh no, that was just so crap, because he was just perfect, and he appeared when she'd had all these really appalling husbands before, and then she discovered this perfect boyfriend who was 70, and no. Maybe that was autobiographical, I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, some of the men, I mean, like Slim, I thought was sort of penciled in. I sort of, some of the stories that they came, and I was thinking, I found it more, I was feeling guilty because I found it more interesting than some of the women's stories, even though there was a tiny minuscule bit of him.
No, you're right. The men were completely marginalised out, which may be the point of the book. But yeah, there was this corner where the men had stuff to say. I mean, I can't remember what his name was. The guy whose brother was lynched and all that.
Yeah.
There was a story to tell. There was a story to tell. Yeah.
But that like the gang rape was awful, wasn't it? And then the male character, I can't remember his name now, something beginning with T, Tyrone or something like that. And he actually did sleep with one of the others. And you sort of saw that coming. And there was a bit of tension there. Then that sort of disappeared. And then I always thought, I kept thinking it was frustrating that nobody kind of challenged him at that point or anything. And yeah, I don't know. I found that difficult to move on from that. And then we go on to another story.
I think it's interesting that we're all saying, oh, what was that character called, or who was that and who was that, and that's something that I found actually quite difficult to keep up with who was who, because for me it's been a holiday book, so I literally flew through it, read it in a couple of days, but then I finished it. I thought, actually, I don't think I can remember half the characters' names, and I actually went on to the site today to see if I could do like almost like a crib sheet, like a revision guide to see.
Oh, you've done a diagram. You've done it.
I did. I don't think it's right, but because I couldn't remember any of them. I just
characters.
Yeah.
No, but interestingly, in the revision guide, I'll call it for want of a better word, they actually surmised some of the characters incorrectly, and I thought, oh, I wonder if they've actually properly read this, because I thought I'd read it in quite a flippant manner. Quite, you know, I'd sort of glossed through it. I'd read it at speed, because I knew I wouldn't have long before tonight, and so yeah, it was quite interesting that so much of it was incorrectly noted in this page. But yes, I'm the same. I do sort of think, oh yes, right, no, now Slim, yes, who was that? Oh yes, now I remember that, and I remember what he did. But yes, and I think that is partly because we're talking about 12 different lives, aren't we? So to try and remember, I think really you'd have to read the book a good 2 or 3 times to get a good handle on who's who.
The links as well. I kept, I was losing the links, if you like, because there were links between these characters. Sometimes you're thinking, well, okay, and I would just lose it, but I never thought of doing like a genealogy thing.
But I'm not entirely sure that it really mattered. That's, you know, it's kind of like they were links, but they were so tenuous, some of them, that you think,
yes, they were. It was almost like, oh well, this character isn't linked to anybody, so we've got to find a link somewhere. Or what could it be that we talked about? That could be Bummy or Boomy or however she said her name. And yes, and some of the links were cross-generational or cross-racial, cross-social, and so yeah, it was interesting how links, you know, it's that 6 degrees of separation. So I thought that side of it was away. But it was almost a case of making a link for making a link's sake.
But that's clever. You see, I thought that was really clever, because now, and she's a poet, and she's just doing a big stream of stuff, because that's the way the book is. That's really, really, really clever, because they don't fit in. You could read each chapter separately and enjoy it, and enjoy the language. And the language, I'm sorry, but she writes beautifully. The language is just, excuse my French, orgasmic. And yeah, that's just great. They don't have to fit together. They don't. They do, and some of them are a bit tenuous, I agree. But you could read each chapter separately and enjoy it. And that says a lot about her writing, I think. A lot. And
I don't think
appreciate
there
that.
were any of the characters, if you were to say to me, oh, there's a spin-off book which is actually the whole story of this person, I don't think there was a single character that I wouldn't want to read the whole book about.
Absolutely.
They all
Can I say, I think I disagree with that, because when I agree, Mary was saying earlier that I felt the book was very superficial and it didn't go deep enough for me. But if there was a book about each character, I feel that story would have gone deeper for me and would have given what I was looking for in the book.
I don't think that's what she meant to do, though. I think it was making points, and her language is beautiful, and maybe that's not the point, and that was an accident. But I don't think she meant to flesh the characters out in the way that we want books fleshed out and want characters fleshed out. And that annoyed me, because in a way, because obviously you want to have a story and have a character, but I don't think that's what she wanted. It was just
I think she wanted to talk about black women and the many different
around. Yeah, I don't think she wanted that.
The many different lives of black women across a century, and they're all going to be very different, and I think that's what she wanted to portray, and I think she managed that very well. I will share that interview, the Waterstones
Do you think
interview.
she chose rather ordinary women, though?
I'm sorry, Mary, I
Do you
didn't
think
catch
she chose rather extraordinary women, though? Do you think she chose rather extraordinary women rather than a mix of women?
No.
I think maybe that's it for me. These were extraordinary women, and they did seem to have really quite interesting lives that I would have liked to have found out more about, rather than it just skimming over the top.
I mean, I don't have a
but
problem
aren't
reading
we
a book
all
about extraordinary women. It's just
extraordinary?
that I feel like there weren't that many. No, we're all unique. We're not all extraordinary.
Yeah,
I think it's about, you know, I suppose it felt like it was lacking ordinary women apart from the older generation ones, a bit like the new generation can make it, but the old generation couldn't. There will be some people in the new generation don't make it either, and that I couldn't see them in it. Do you see what I mean?
Did you not think that Hattie made it?
I didn't feel like I really connected.
Hattie, no, not at all. But she was happy in herself. Hattie didn't make anything, but Hattie was true to herself.
She was
Yeah,
an
and she was
amazing
strong.
woman. She was an amazing.
She was just badass there. Yeah, yeah. And actually,
what does it mean?
Yeah.
What does it mean to make it? I mean, for me, that self-sufficiency, that strength to be able to do whatever she needed.
Dominique and Amma doing. Yeah. No, Hattie was the best character. Hattie was there like a solid rock, and there at the end of the book. Okay, I don't like the ending, but she was there in the book. She was the thing, and Amma, who started it off, was very successful, and then Dominique, and again very successful. But they might have been very successful, but they weren't at the end of the day there. And Hattie, my God, she was there. So yeah.
Hattie was comfortable in her skin, wasn't she?
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Yeah. I think that's my point about, you know, what does it mean to have made it? I mean, for me, being comfortable in your skin, being comfortable with who you are, what you are, it is making it. Self-actualization, top of Maslow's hierarchy.
In that sense, in that definition, I don't think any of them made it apart from her, but because most of the others were not very happy in their skins, and really, I would say. But when I say made it, I mean what I'm talking about is a lot of I suppose I wanted to see. There are a lot of people, black people, who are living in London at the moment, or living at the moment, who are not, haven't got the breaks, are not becoming the top banker like Carol, or teachers, or top in the arts. It's a kind of, it's a tiny little segment of people that she's chosen to cover. And I kind of think she missed out on an opportunity there for showing skin, but she inherited a farm, and you know, farming had got more difficult, and she obviously was living, you know, in not particular luxury, but she was quite happy not to. So in a way, she did have more of an ordinary life, but she did inherit a farm. So she, you know,
Hattie's got nothing to do with her colour. Hattie is just this amazing woman. Carol is the unhappiest woman in the world, and she's done really well, etc., etc. Hattie is just there. She just is. She's just an amazing woman. Carol has worked and worked and worked and worked and done really well, inverted commas, but where is she?
But where was the cleaners? Where were the care workers? Where were the teaching assistants?
Bummy,
where were the bus drivers?
Bummy is great. Bummy is great. She's one of the best characters, isn't it?
Yeah, but Bummy was one of the older generation who's had to start off as a cleaner in order to fund Carol to go to be a banker. So the kind of the whole, if you read the whole thing, you might get the impression that first generation black people who came to this country had to go in all the basic bus driving jobs and all that sort of thing, and then gradually most of the others have made it down the generations to some. When I say made it, I mean into professional jobs or whatever. But the reality is,
what's made it? You say into professional jobs, and okay, yeah, there is that. I know you've got all these tick boxes, but Bummy hasn't, has she? I mean,
I'm not arguing what the meaning of made it is.
But she's happy. She's happy. She's happy.
Yeah, I know, but I'm not arguing about.
Is Carol's made it? Is she happy in her own skin? No.
I'm really saying that I think she's chosen to write about people of a particular section of black women that have reached a particular professional height, if you like. Whether they're happy or not, you know, is beside the point. But she hasn't really covered, you know, she's trying to tick all the boxes of all sorts of things, but she hasn't really looked at ordinary lives of people who are still in working jobs and haven't done that. And a lot of black people have found it hard to get through the glass ceiling and all that sort of thing. And so I kind of felt like she hadn't sort of hit what she was trying to do, really, the variety. That's what I felt anyway. Maybe that's why I can identify with it.
And it was a very broad picture she was painting, really, because I mean, not everybody in the book was black, but there was that sort of thing. But she was trying to bring an awful lot in with the different social status, gender status, and she did. It was quite a broad brush thing, really, wasn't it? You know.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think her aim was to sort of point out the otherness of some people. Somebody who is a bus driver, whether they're regardless of race or gender, may not be the other that she was trying to get over, if you understand what I mean. You know, I think she was. It took her 5 years to write this book, and she said there was one chapter where the man at the end, she had a whole chapter for him, but she was persuaded to take it out.
Right.
So that it is focused really on the feminist side of it. Although she says, you know, men can be feminists as well.
I've not read anything, so I've just read the book, and I'm coming to you having read the book. So yeah, I've not read anything around it. So.
No, I haven't either. Just apart from trying to get a tree of who the people were and how they were related.
Yeah. How they all linked together. So that you could see how it all linked together.
Yeah, and so I can remember some names from the beginning.
Apparently, I did see somewhere there is a diagram that you can download online. I'll see if I can upload that to the page as well. That links everybody together. There is a diagram available.
I'm just reading it again for the language because some of the language is so orgasmically beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, that woman can write. That woman can write. It just, I don't know, misery pulled together in her face, and I'm not even describing it properly, but the language is just, to me, the language is, that woman can write.
I did find that although it's about Black women, I did find that there were various passages or you know, stages of life where I could identify with what the women were going through. I thought that was quite nice. You know, yes, it's about Black women, it's about their how they've lived, they've accomplished, and what challenges they've witnessed. But I think actually it's also about the story of women. That there is motherhood, there is pain, there is separation, there is marriage, there is happy marriage and sad marriage, and there's partnerships. And actually, it's a really nice view on a vast array of relationships.
Absolutely.
I think.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
What about their relationship with their children? Most of them don't seem to get on with their children. That real
I'm not saying anything, but I've got teenagers at the moment.
I'm bowing out because I don't have kids, but yeah.
I mean, Hattie's family were awful, weren't they? I mean, the way she describes them around that table was that pretty awful, wasn't it? That Christmas party or whatever. They did sound dreadful.
Although there was, I can't remember her name, but there was the lady who'd gone back to the Caribbean. Was it Shirley's mum? And so Shirley went back to the Caribbean with Lennox for her summer holidays, and said, "Mum, I've arrived here so that I can recharge and recuperate."
Oh yeah.
And she wouldn't
Take it
help.
all out of me and I'm exhausted. And I only wear white when I'm here. And so it was her story, but also her mother, who said, "Well, they descend on me," which is wonderful. I worked very hard and I was able to come back to the home country for my retirement years. And now all my family come and land on me every summer, and I have to wait on them. They don't even know what they're doing. They don't know hard work. But just to see those two interactions of the daughter coming to her mum for rest and recuperation, and the mum saying, "I've worked really hard and now I'm looking after you again." Just to see that interaction, I think was such a joy.
Yeah, and the daughter thinking that the mother was really happy because she was doing what she likes doing.
Yes,
but mum wasn't actually happy.
Does that actually happen?
I'm sure it does.
They don't come back for Sunday dinner. Yeah.
Should we ask Valerie if it happens? No, not really.
But I think that there are some difficult parent-child relationships, but there is, you know, the long commitment of family is there.
Yeah.
So seeing Carol through university and then onwards, and you know, standing by her, and then being so happy when she comes back home and she actually enjoys the food of her home country, whereas previously she had put her nose up at it. And the difference that it makes, how a young person grows in their community, that when she first went to university, she felt like she was changing and she had to fit in. And then when she was older and more comfortable in herself, she came more comfortably back to her roots. And to see that journey that she took, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah.
There are lots and lots of elements to this book, I think. And I think you can see, because you've got your abusive relationships as well, and the victim, and as well as other sort of relationships, parent-child relationships, child-parent relationships. It's very, very broad. And there's just stuffed an awful lot in there, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
It wouldn't have been a book that I would have picked up off the shelf I don't
No.
No,
enjoy
no.
reading it, and I have enjoyed trying to figure out where I can identify.
Yeah, I mean, I started off by saying, did anybody else not enjoy it? But I wouldn't say I didn't enjoy it. I can't say that. I wouldn't say it was, something I would recommend to others necessarily. I think I read it. I read it to the end. I found it interesting. There were bits, most books are interesting. I'm not sure I found it quite as poetic as Ruth did, but I may look back at the language, having heard her praise of it. I didn't think of it as poetry really, and I think because there was so much packed into it, maybe I was thinking about all these different themes, and some of it was grating on me, and that was fine. That I found a little difficult, but it was interesting. It was interesting. It was stimulating. It was a bit different.
Did
So I'm glad I read it.
Audible?
Sorry?
Somebody read it on Audible, didn't they? On an audiobook.
Yes, she's not in the Zoom meeting. It was Georgina.
Yeah. Yeah, because I'd be interested to see whether that rhythmic way came over us in the audiobook, because the book is written in a really rhythmic sort of poetic way, and it'd be interesting to hear if it came like that on an audiobook. She did say there were accents, didn't she?
I utterly hated this book when I first read it. Utterly. I couldn't even read it, and I speed read it in 3 hours before night's meeting. But it's beautiful. The language. There's no story. It's not a novel, but it's a poem. It's a massive, massive poem, and the language is beautiful.
When I originally chose it,
the language is just orgasmic.
I was looking for a book that would cover the theme of Black Lives Matter. And I chose that one not knowing anything about it, what it was going to be like, other than the fact that my mum, Valerie, had already read it and enjoyed it. But when I started to read it, I also recalled a time my mum had said to me, I'm reading a book club book and it's about these lesbians and I'm really not enjoying it. And she said, I don't think the book's for me at all. She must have been in chapter 1 and chapter 2.
They were very promiscuous.
And as I read it, I thought, is this the book that she also hated at the beginning? So obviously, Mum, you hated it when you started to read it, and then you enjoyed it.
Yes, and then it got more interesting. Yes, yes.
Is it about lesbians? No, I don't. Is it? Really?
Well, it was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Emma was a raving lesbian.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
but that's just
And then there's the pair that went
it's
over
not
to
important to the
the
book. She's just, yeah, I know she's a lesbian, but it's not important to the book at all.
No, but
No.
the first chapters were that, and then it got better.
But it's not about letters. It's just not, because it's just like, well, she might be, but it's not. It's not about lesbianism. It's about.
No, I didn't say it, but I didn't say that it was.
The
Just at
chapters
the
were very
beginning.
heavily on lesbianism and their promiscuousness, and she'd slept with 150 people or something by the time she was 20. Like
she was very promiscuous.
When I was 20, I shacked around.
Yeah, she was very.
It's what you do, but yeah.
It isn't what everybody does, but I mean, the other thing is that I think it is about lesbianism. I think it's about feminism. I think it's about racism. I think it's about so many different themes, almost too many. But I also think that I would be interested to hear what a lesbian would think of the book and whether they felt that lesbianism.
Yeah, don't leave the men out, because I don't think. Yes, the women are really important, and the lesbians and all the rest of it. But men are important. The men are important is to completely. It's
It is a myth.
all about women. I don't think this book is all about women. I really don't.
No, but I feel like she was trying to embed some messages in there that and kind of people that she thought had not either homosexuals, lesbians, or certain aspects of racism, or you know, just sexual identity of any. I think she was exploring all those things and kind of almost. I think it was purposefully explored and kind of tried to be explained to people, and I think it felt like that was part of her agenda to me, and it was a little bit heavy-handed occasionally. That's what I felt.
There have been.
I don't think it was, you know, a side issue. I think it was something that was. You know, you read novels where it doesn't matter that this character is a lesbian. It just comes into it that, you know, that they are, and it's just that they just have their adventure or whatever story happens, and it's kind of incidental. But I don't think it was that incidental in this.
No, but point is, she's not writing a novel.
No,
it's not a novel. It's a narrative, ballads, big stream, what have you. I love that. I love that.
And I think there are a lot of documentaries and there's a lot of information out there about what it's like to be a black man, and it is, you know, it is terribly difficult, and you are in, you know, in the face of the police, and you can get pulled over at any time. But actually looking into the lives of black women, I don't think has been quite so documented. So I found, you know, yes, there are men there, but I think it's assumed that we would understand how the men were portraying themselves, and, you know, some of them were stand-up fellows, but some of them were the atypical shag around, don't care about women, baby daddies.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that the assumption is there that we would probably understand more about how the men's psyche was without having to be told it.
Fair play. Yep.
I would love to hear the audiobook version of it. I'd love to hear the accents.
Have they got African accents? Have they put African accents on them then?
On the audiobook.
On the audiobook.
Yeah.
Do we know who was reading it?
No,
On the
but
recording.
if you ask in the group, I know Georgina Raffle has been listening to it, so she'll be able to tell you.
Right.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Well, you ladies have been absolutely awesome.
Hasn't it been a great first book, really, to explore and discuss?
It has. It's been great, and we've had a very civilized discussion. You know, I mean, we've had disagreements, and
but that's okay. It's a safe place to disagree.
Okay. You're all great, and thank you for being so civilized. Yeah, thank you.
We're not going to like the same books, any of us.
No.
I mean,
No,
like them, sometimes we won't. It's okay.
In this day and age, everybody's so hung up and stressed and what have you, and ready to lash out. And it's really nice to be in a group where that doesn't happen. So I appreciate that, and I thank you.
It was narrated by Anna Maria Nabairi. Do you want to hear a sample?
Oh, yes, please.
Spotted alongside her down the street together. Yaz knows full well that Amma will always be anything but normal. And as she's in her 50s, she's not old yet, although try telling that to a 19-year-old. In any case, aging is nothing to be ashamed of, especially when the entire human race is in it together. although sometimes it seems that she alone among her friends wants to celebrate getting older, because it's such a privilege to not die prematurely, she tells them, as the night draws in around her kitchen table in her cosy terraced house in Brixton. As they get stuck into the dishes each one has brought: chickpea stew, jerk chicken, Greek salad, lentil curry, roasted vegetables, Moroccan lamb, saffron rice, beetroot and kale salad, jollof quinoa, and gluten-free pasta for the really irritating fusspots. As they pour themselves glasses of wine, vodka, fewer calories.
Bloody hell.
Orders. She expects them to approve of her bucking the trend of middle-aged moaning. Instead, she gets bemused smiles. And what about arthritic flare-ups, memory loss, and hot sweats? Amma passes the young busker. She smiles with encouragement at the girl who responds in kind. She fishes out a few coins, places them in the violin case. She isn't ready to forgo cigarettes, so leans on the riverside wall and lights one, hates herself for it. The adverts told her generation it would make them appear grown-up, glamorous, powerful, clever, desirable, and above all, cool. No one told them it would actually make them dead.
That's very, you know, listen to that. So, some narrators on Audible are quite irritating, but I could listen to that.
Yeah.
The sample doesn't go on long enough.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Very good.
Yeah, it does tonight.
Bloody hell, thank you. Good night. Love you, ladies. Thank you so much. Thank you. Have a brilliant time. Thank you. Good night.
Are you going off, Ruth? Night.
Yeah, I will. Yep.
It's been really, really lovely to be able to chat like this.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
I'm still here. Because I'm a fuckwit. Because Rio Runner's World bastards. So I'm still here. My Runner's World girly.
At the moment, I've got this scheduled to take place on the first Wednesday of every month. But if that doesn't suit some people, then we can move it. It's not set in stone. We can change it. But I'll keep it at that for now.
I can't wait to eat Lisa Jewell because I love Lisa Jewell. I will eat her up for dinner. Breakfast.
I just wonder if you could do a poll for different days so you can find out the most popular day. That would be good.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if Wednesday's the most popular, that's fine.
Yeah, there's no problem.
Just
no
a thought.
problem. I can't do a Monday evening because I teach on a Monday evening, but apart from that, I'm easy.
Chop and change different days.
We could change,
Yeah.
Or you could,
We could just do a poll each month. We could just ask for people's favourite preferred date.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
You know, the meeting can be moved.
Yeah, well,
it's fine.
people who want to talk about the book. What night can they do? Yeah.
Because not everybody will read it. You know, we may vote on a book and somebody will think, I can't read that. I'm not going to take part in that month. And then they won't be involved anyway.
For fuck's sake. I didn't read this book, but you know. So there we are.
I'll read anything.
What's the next book, Sarah?
I've already read the next book.
Have you?
Sarah, what's the next book?
Love you, girlies.
Family Upstairs or something.
The Family Upstairs is the next book.
Did you put a link on the? Did you?
I did put the links on. I haven't put it
on the site so that
I haven't managed to do an Amazon one. I'll try again, but I've done one for Waterstones, one for foils.
That's what I've been looking for because you know I'm an Amazon lady.
Yeah, I'll have a go tonight. I think it's because I'm on holiday. Sorry?
Well, I only want to buy it if you're going to get a commission. I'm looking for the ones which you have commission on. That's the one I'll buy.
That's good of you.
Yes, that's very kind of you. I earned a grand total of 87 pence last month on Girl, Woman, Other.
Oh my God.
So, you know,
How are you going to spend it all?
I'm not going to be
I'm afraid I've got a Kindle.
retiring. I'm not going to be retiring on these on the commission, but it does help. Because, for instance, today
about your book club, Sarah.
Today I have had to pay £10 for internet access because I'm away on holiday. So the little bits of commission will help for things like that. But you know, don't feel obliged. It's fine. If you do buy them through my links, that's fabulous. But if you don't, it doesn't matter. It's optional. I will try and link to an Amazon link, but I wasn't managing it when I tried last week. I'll try again.
So who do they all give you the same sort of commission?
Yeah, it's something like so I think that one last month is between 5 and 10%.
Oh, right. Do foils and Waterstones, they both giving you the same percentage of commission?
I can't remember, Mum.
I think we've lost her with her. I think she's run out of her temper.
No, I've not. I've got 24 hours.
Okay, don't worry. Yeah.
It's
All
not
right,
it's not a very stable.
And, feed my minions.
Okay, Ruth. Thank you for joining
I'm
in.
very pleased to have joined your book club. It's my first book club ever, and I have had a lovely night.
Bye, everybody.
See you next month, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for joining in. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thanks very much for organising it.
Oh, you're very